95.7 The Game. It better not be roasting me if I'm giving all these intros.
Not.
Hey, shout out to Morelli out there. He's trying to shout out his wife as they're celebrating their first-year wedding anniversary. Morelli, shout you out, man. One of our diehard roasters here. I did see your trade offer, Morelli. And, yeah, I would do that. Well, I think it was Wiggins. He wanted to trade Poole, Kuminga. It looked very appetizing. We'll see. But shout out to Morelli out there, one of our day ones, all the way out there in India, listening and watching us on YouTube. Grant Cohn coming up in moments here. Of course, we know who Grant Cohn is. Grant Cohn does a great job covering the 49ers. For Fan Nation at Sports Illustrated, check out his YouTube channel, The Cohn Zone. The Cohn Zone will have some thoughts on Jimmy G from him and what he saw at OTAs.
Every time I'm driving on Park Presidio going across the Golden Gate Bridge, you come around the turn. You can go right to the Marina Greens.
Yeah.
And go toward the Presidio or whatever. You can go right or you can go left like you're going to Golden Gate Bridge. It says, slow down for Cohn Zone. And I think of Grant Cohn.
Wow.
Every time I drive by that.
Time for new shots, headshots for our boy Grant Cohn. We got him looking like he's 12.
Yeah, all of us have old headshots.
Yeah, we do.
Goose is from 15 years ago.
Well, Guru has 5 different headshots if you haven't noticed on the YouTube. One, he has a hat with glasses. One, he just has glasses. Then one without glass. They literally mix up his headshots. I think Guru doesn't know. Use this one. Use that one.
What?
Use this one. Use that one. I'm going to keep my headshot. I want to look like I'm 25 for the rest of my life. Make him the segment 510. Look, we could ask anything at 888-957-9570.
Just line them up.
It's an Ask Anything
It's
Friday.
a Friday, Memorial Day weekend. Let's have fun.
You like grits or oatmeal? Grits or oatmeal, which is better? Ask us anything.
Well,
some guy asks us, where did we start in the shower? And I'm like, well, I take the loofah, and I put the soap on there, and I go body, chest first, and then do the head and face last, and just let the water hit me. Oh, it feels so good. But 510 says, let's get Love Man a date. Love Man, a.k.a. Loveman. Make them a segment, and people can call in. It's a slow time of the year. This is our chance. Love Man. Just line up, ladies. That would be something else. Can we do that, a dating game on a morning roast?
In this cancel culture we live in, I'm very uncomfortable even having this conversation.
What? Instead of Love is Blind, it's Lub is Blind.
Love is Blind is a good one.
See?
And then there's the Ray Charles thing that you just read.
Okay, let's not do that ever again. We got Grant.
As we talk about cancel culture.
We got Grant.
I just said Ray Charles is blind, so let's not
Flavor of Loveman?
Grant Cohn. You ever watch Ray? Good morning, Grant. You ever watch Ray?
It's a great movie.
No, I missed that biopic. I'm sorry.
Damn.
If you told me last night, I would have watched it in preparation for the show. You didn't tell me. I always do my homework.
Listen. We don't prepare for this old show. That just came up 5 minutes ago. We just throw stuff against the wall and it sticks. That's what we do on the show. We're kind of freestyle kings here. Grant Cohn.
I'm Little Flip.
Yeah, he is Little Flip. There you go. I just need the Lucky Charm outfit. That's it. That's all.
I actually saw Little Flip with Selsky on Market Street. Swear to God, years ago. And then Selsky was
I would have been more excited to see Selsky than Lil Flip, honestly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Well, Selsky was in the Game Over video, going full circle. Grant, I want to start here. We're having a wacky little Friday before Memorial Day weekend. The Jimmy Garoppolo news breaks, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. And there is a Niner conversation to be had within the framework of the bigger Jimmy G scope. But it hits. What did you think?
Well, yeah, that's the Raiders. The Raiders are screwed. I don't know what they signed up for, but this is the Jimmy Garoppolo experience. But let's bring it back to the 49ers. Remember, they didn't put him on IR. He broke his foot, and they're like, yeah, it's just a break, though. He'll be back. There's a chance he could come back for the Super Bowl or for the NFC Championship game, and they never ruled him out. And I think that part of their chagrin when they lost the NFC Championship game was that they thought Jimmy could have suited up. And there was those clips of him, smiling and grinning on the sideline like he got over on the Niners. But in retrospect, he couldn't have. He needed another surgery, and this is another player that they've seemingly pushed back too soon. They did it with, they're doing it now with Brock. Hey, Brock, the expectations you're going to be back week 1. Okay, is that the expectation? Jimmy was going to be back for the Super Bowl? How many times does this organization push their good players back on the field too soon?
D Ford.
And then say, I don't understand why our guys are getting hurt. It's so strange.
D Ford. I think Bosa wore down in the playoffs. Something wasn't right. Whether he re-aggravated or whatever, he didn't look right in the playoffs. He was a totally different player. D Ford. Javon Kinlaw's knee over and over and over and again. Tevin Coleman's ankle. We can go down the list of different things. The Brock thing's very interesting because I said this earlier this week and people were losing their minds. All I was saying is this. if you really like Brock Purdy and you believe as much in him as they do, okay, this is his moneymaker. This is the elbow, the arm. Baseball, I know the injuries are different, but there's comps here. Time and time again, guys rush back with a forearm, elbow, shoulder injury, re-aggravate it to be out for 2 years. What is the rush on Brock Purdy? I do not understand why they're even hinting at week 1. What isn't health and overall stability the number one thing if you believe in him as much as they do?
But at the same time, isn't Kyle Shanahan incredibly short-sighted and desperate to win a Super Bowl because he's been knocking on the door since 2017 and hasn't gotten it done? I mean, his own personal demons kind of override what's right for the team, and he has 3 quarterbacks who are really young, but he's in this win-now mode where he has to win this year, and he's trying to do it with some of the youngest quarterbacks in the league. It seems like it's kind of his agenda.
It's a great
interesting. Grant Cohn here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. So, look, Brock, Darnold, Trey, I just want to see them win the Super Bowl, but I don't know if it's going to happen when you have 3 question marks at quarterback. Before we get back to quarterbacks, Shasky brought up D Ford. It got me thinking about edge rusher. And I think, look, we can talk about offensive line and where they need to improve there, but opposite of Bosa, who did wear down in the postseason and did not have a good postseason, is Drake Jackson ready to start opposite of Nick Bosa? Because I see Frank Clark out there. I see a couple other guys out there. I think edge rusher opposite Nick Bosa, especially if he's not going to play every single snap, should be a priority for this defense.
Absolutely. And of all the players, like the second-year players, he looks the most different from his rookie year. His rookie year, he looked like a college player. Now he looks like he's 270 pounds of muscle, which doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a 10-sack guy, but it means he can play. And I think what they're going to do is give him all offseason as a starter, mini camp, training camp, see what he can do. If he flops, they still have $10 million in cap space to go get a pass rusher. And there's a bunch of guys still available, Yannick Ngakoue, Leonard Floyd. But clearly they want Drake Jackson to be the guy. That's why they drafted him. So far, so good. But still, is he a pure edge rusher like D Ford, or is he one of those guys like Arden Key, who kind of looks like, or Charles Omenihu, who kind of looks like a DN, but on third down, you'd rather them rushing against a guard? I always thought that was the plan for Drake Jackson. And he does look it looks like he could do that. He's big. He's not 250. He's 270. So who is the edge rusher? Is it Drake or is it Austin Bryant? Is there someone else? I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting. I don't know. The Niner thing, it feels like it's in full swing right now, and everybody's super excited. And this quarterback thing just won't go away. There's no other way to put it. It just will not go away. On the same note as the Jimmy G thing, and I've heard this from so many people, hey, Brock put out great tape last year, and he absolutely did. I mean, he was phenomenal. It got real constipated in certain playoff games, specifically the Dallas one. Dallas is an elite defense. I get that. I just worry about, are we crowning him too early? Baker Mayfield had a great rookie year, broke a ton of records, fell back down to earth. There's the injury concerns about being that size. It's very unique to be a Drew Brees and be that size and to avoid injury in the pocket as a pocket quarterback. Where are you at on Brock in terms of who he is as a player moving forward?
He's being crowned way too early. He's a slight upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo at a much cheaper price, which is nice, but that doesn't mean he's your franchise quarterback. It doesn't make him elite. I mean, I think most people that follow the Niners don't think very much of Jimmy Garoppolo and are kind of waiting to laugh at the Raiders for expecting, his win-loss record to translate. So, I mean, Brock, if he were on any other team, would you be looking at him as a franchise quarterback?
Absolutely not.
The best team, he's not looked at as elite. He's a guy you can win with. And he's got a very limited skill set, but he's got a lot of poise and moxie and intangibles. Like the perfect backup quarterback. But he couldn't even make it 8 games without getting hurt.
Right.
So there's a lot of questions for him, and I think they mortgaged their future for Trey Lance. He broke his finger. He broke his ankle. He hasn't failed, and they're going to pivot to the last pick in the draft and a retread who's 25. No, you don't get to do that. Any other coach wouldn't get to do that. You have to finish the project you started because you mortgaged the future for it, and this kid, Trey Lance, hasn't failed at all. You failed him by getting him hurt running the ball.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Grant. I agree. The game plan against Chicago and Seattle, we said it on the air. He's going to get hurt, and he didn't last 2 games here. But you bring up Trey Lance and all the compensation they traded for him, and Brock Purdy, everybody wants to crown him. Look, he had a great run. But wouldn't the 49ers, for their own sake, say, we need Trey Lance to be the quarterback? This is 7 years, and we still have questions about the quarterback position. Like you said, not many coaches survived that long without knowing who the damn quarterback is. So don't the 49ers brass, wouldn't they want Trey Lance to say, hey, take this job so we could justify moving up to pick in number 3 overall, and now we have our franchise quarterback. It would seem like they want Trey Lance to win the job instead of bringing in Darnold or praising Brock Purdy so much.
Yeah, I mean, you mortgaged the future because you felt you needed a skill set that was way different than Jimmy Garoppolo's. You needed a transcendent skill set. You knew this guy was inexperienced and needed coaching. And basically what you, like after 2 years, you throw up your hands and say, we're not good enough coaches to teach this guy. We're just going to pivot to Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold. I'm sorry. If Nathaniel Hackett did that, he'd get fired. If anyone that wasn't named Shanahan did that, they'd get laughed at and ridiculed. But everyone trusts Shanahan, believes in him, and thinks he knows what he's doing, which he does at every position except quarterback. I think we're in year 7, and we realize he has no plan at the quarterback position, and he's just like grasping around like he's blind. And so he found Brock Purdy, and he's holding on to it. But it's like, no, dude, we remember you traded up for Trey Lance. He's 23. He's now going off to Patrick Mahomes, personal throwing coach, who's also Jimmy's throwing coach, and getting results. I think that's interesting. I don't think the Niners sent him to Jeff Christensen. I wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy Garoppolo sent them to Jeff Christensen because they're friends.
Wow.
He's like, look, man, they're going to push you out of this team. It's Brock's team. Yeah, they did it to me too. Go to Jeff. He'll get you right. Don't go to their coaches. I wouldn't be surprised.
So, was it a mistake looking back in 2021? Because I always thought that Trey Lance should have started that Detroit game. And you just start him right away. He gets better by the end of the year. They end up losing in the NFC Championship game to the LA Rams. We know how that went with Jimmy Garoppolo. The third play from scrimmage for the Niners offense overthrows George Kittle for a touchdown. It feels like they made a mistake by not just starting Trey Lance right away.
Well, I think they made the mistake in the final preseason game. Kyle was trying to get real cute. If you remember, it was against the Raiders at home. And he had Jimmy and Trey, like, literally
alternating.
Switching off.
Talk about it yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, it was real cute for a preseason game. And then at the end of the game, Trey's in there with, like, the backup offensive line, throws a pass, breaks his finger. And really, that they keep talking about it. They're talking about it now. Like, that derailed the first year and a half of his career. If that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be surprised if they would continue that 2-quarterback system in week 1 against Detroit. I mean, they did it the first drive of that game. I think they really were going to do that. But then he broke his finger.
Yeah. I feel like we underrated the finger injury because clearly it bothered him in terms of gripping the ball, throwing the ball, how he throws the ball. That's a whole nother conversation. I do want to ask you about Sam Darnold. Just the whole aura around him, the rhetoric around him. Like, yes, he looks the part, and he throws. I think he's the greatest thrower. Like, get out of here with that, number one. Number two, like, his decision-making is horrific. Like, does anyone not? Like, he really reminds me of Jimmy just when it comes to horrific decision-making. Going back to USC, all the other stops that he's had certain playmakers on him. I acknowledge horrible coaching around him for years. He's been a terrible decision-maker. So what are you seeing when you see him on the field right now in a 49er uniform? Is he dramatically different than what we've seen in the past?
No, it was interesting. He was playing with the second team, and I don't know if he didn't throw any picks, but I thought he was indecisive. You know, it's 7-on-7, and he's looking at his first read, it's not there. Looking at the second read, not there. Come back to his first read. Meanwhile, you got Brandon Allen playing with the third string, just dicing up the defense, as he should. He's a vet going against rookies, essentially. I was expecting to see that from Darnold, but that's just not who he is. He's just naturally indecisive. He's always been that way, and I don't see how you can fix that. I mean, you could pump him up with confidence and tell him he's good, but people have been doing that for years. You don't think the Jets did that? You don't think the Panthers? Like, he doesn't believe it.
Well,
I just don't see it.
But it's honestly, when he signed with the 49ers.
Bonte turned to me. No, you came in here. Bonte goes, you know what's going to happen. And I go, what? I go, this is a good little, emergency reclamation project. He goes, no. He's going to get mentioned as a starter, and everyone's going to hype themselves up. Am I paraphrasing?
Within the first 24 hours, as soon as it happened.
Kyle loves him. From what I've heard, when they played the Jets in 2020, like that week leading up to the game, Kyle wouldn't stop talking about what a good player Sam Darnold is and how dangerous he is. And like the players in the defense were like rolling their eyes, like, "Guy, we're going to destroy this." But apparently, Kyle thinks the world of him and always has. And like he gets tunnel vision on players. He thought the world of Quan Alexander, signed him, even though he tore his ACL. I mean, he did the same thing with Trevarius Ward, Jerick McKinnon. Like some of them hit, but some of his offensive players that he just has to have.
Tevin Coleman.
Yeah.
Tevin Coleman was decent in 2019.
Stop it. They did not need to suit him up last year.
Well, last year. I'm talking about 2019.
Walking into the NFC Championship, I said, so you're suiting up Tevin Coleman, and everyone's losing their mind about this third quarterback thing. I lost my mind about Tevin Coleman suiting up in that game. I go, he's worthless.
Well, he made some plays in Carolina.
Stop it.
No, the Darnold thing, though. The Darnold thing, like, I believe he's going to get a chance to start. And you hear the voice of the 49ers hyping him up.
God.
And you hear people around him saying, well, Darnold, he's the best thrower in football the Niners had ever. And I'm just like, wait a minute here. Am I watching the same guy? Hey, you went to UCLA. You watch USC, UCLA every game. You know who Darnold is. Only the 49ers can hype up mediocre quarterbacks. And there's something about Shanahan. Is it the arrogance of Shanahan? Is it the cockiness of Shanahan? Because I think he's a damn good coach. But there's something about him to where he's like, you know what? We're going to have to win with my system. And I feel like that was Steve Kerr this year with his react offense. It's like, maybe you want to mix in some pick and roll. What is it about Shanahan, Greg? You've been around him for so long.
He's very arrogant, right? And you're thinking like, okay, so you haven't really gotten over the hump. What is the lesson you learned from this, failure, from losing in the NFC Championship game? You think, okay, pass protection is more important. I got to protect my quarterback in a lot of different ways. No, what the lesson he took was, I can win with Brock Purdy. I can win with anyone. Bring in Sam Darnold. He's just as good as Brock. Like, well, that's not the lesson here. The lesson isn't that you're that great. It's that you're not quite good enough, and you have to tweak your formula. But he thinks, actually, Sam Darnold's as good as Brock. First of all, he's not. Like, I don't think Sam Darnold's an elite quarterback, but I don't think Brock Purdy's an elite quarterback, but he's way better than Sam.
What about
Brock Purdy? Actually has it qualities. He's poised. He's confident. He can react to stuff on the field. He's not completely overwhelmed mentally like Sam Darnold is. Like, there's no comparison. But
yeah.
Kyle doesn't really know what he's looking at. He's not a quarterback. He was a wide receiver. He's a scheme expert, but he can't coach the most important position. And I don't know that Brian Greasy can either. We'll see. But this is a big gap in their entire, organization.
How did Trey look in those drills? You were referencing Sam Darnold, looking a little hesitant. How did Trey look in those?
Much more decisive, extremely decisive. The ball came out of his hands on time. I mean, more than it had in the past. But I think the thing that's interesting about Trey, I feel like they wrote him off. And the reason they have been talking about Sam Darnold off the record so much is because they're pivoting. But then Trey went to this new coach that they probably didn't bank on, didn't set him up with, Jeff Christensen. Comes back and actually has improved big time in the things that they felt they couldn't coach him in. And now they're like, well, what do we do? He might be good. We can't get rid of him now. So I think they're pleasantly surprised. Trey's sort of fighting for his career with the 49ers, and they're sitting back and watching and saying, man, maybe we wrote him off too soon. It's very interesting. It seems like he's sort of impressing them, and he's doing it on his own. You got to respect the 23-year-olds who can mature like that, when they realize what's at stake.
How do you feel like the locker room? How do you feel, or from your observation, how does the locker room feel about the quarterback situation? Because we see Darnold at a lot of Warrior games with Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. It seems like he's in the in crowd within that locker room. How do you think the players feel about the quarterback situation?
The players kind of buy into that whole myth that they don't need a quarterback, that they just need a healthy starting quarterback and they'll win. And I really think the locker room likes it because once you get a quarterback who's great, making $50 million a year and can kind of carry the team, make other players better, then you don't need to spend $19 million a year on a tight end. You don't need to spend $7 million a year on a fullback. Like, you have to have this super expensive team to prop up these quarterbacks. But once you have a quarterback who can prop up a team, like, all those guys are expendable. So I think they know if you go to the 49ers, you'll get paid because they're not paying a quarterback.
Wow.
That's a big deal, right? Like, that's $50 million that's not going to a quarterback. That could go to the fullback. That could go to the strong side linebacker. And that's the kind of organization the Niners have built, so they love it. I mean, they don't necessarily want a quarterback to come and take all the money and all the attention. They're the stars.
It's an interesting point I hadn't even considered. I mean, I really haven't thought about that. My bigger takeaway for this team, like just coming out of that NFC Championship game loss, and I know that they're going to feel a certain way because they're competitors, but I get a lot of like that final year with Harbaugh vibes in that it felt like, oh, we reached the mountaintop when Alex Boone said that, and just the team was feeling like they were a champion, even though they were really, really, really good. And I know the margins are thin when it comes to winning, but you didn't win it all. And you look back, and all these guys have one thing missing from their resume: Frank Gore, Patrick Willis, Justin Smith, etc. You go right down the list. This feels like the last great year for the 49ers, and they've got a lot of hubris going on right now. And it was interesting to hear Travis Kelce basically say, screw the Niners. They thought that they would have won that game with any guy at quarterback in the third string. Like, that's ridiculous. And I kind of side with Travis Kelce on this one.
Oh, absolutely. Extremely arrogant. And it's kind of funny that the NFL sided with the Niners and like, here's another quarterback. Like, as if they had Sam Darnold, they would have beaten the Eagles. If they had Sam Darnold in that game, he would have got hit a bunch of times, just like Josh Johnson and
exactly.
So the Niners really need to like bridge the gap with the Eagles, and it's not having a third quarterback. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and the crying after the game, Robbie Gould, Deebo.
Well, they conduct themselves
weak.
Like there is a level of arrogance from the Niners as a whole, where they do conduct themselves like they're a 5-time champion in the last 2 decades.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they're like the Boston Celtics of the NFL. A team that's come really close, a team that everyone always thinks is going to break through. And maybe the Celtics will. Like, they're not dead yet, but, like, aren't the Niners kind of like they've been to a finals? Right. Everyone thinks they're a historic franchise. No one really criticizes them, but they just don't get it done.
Yeah, no doubt. Grant, man, have a great holiday weekend. I saw your tweet about Andre Ward being the most underrated boxer in history. Well, guess what? Andre Ward's going to join us in about 7 minutes after he's inducted to the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame. You would have loved it. Patrick Willis, Mike Singletary presented Patrick Willis. Yeah, people ready to jump up and down. They remembered his high school record with Mike Singletary.
I was starstruck to be in the booth with Andre Ward, man. That dude is legit. Yep. And he doesn't know me, but he knew my dad, and my dad really thought the world of Andre Ward.
You know, Grant, I know you're a big baseball guy. Open invitation. West Sunset, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Come out, throw the ball around with the kids. Check it out. You're more than welcome. We're doing All-Stars all summer long.
I'd love to, man. I used to be an all-star Little League player and coach. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Text me on the side, bro. Have a good one. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too, guys. Take care.
All right, Grant Cohn.
Grant Cohn. Killing it.
Here on the Morning Roast. Fan Nation at Sports Illustrated covers the Niners for Fan Nation at Sports Illustrated. And, of course, his YouTube channel, The Cohn Zone. Grant Cohn always